Asterisk. Sometimes a crime doesn't begin with a scream. Sometimes it begins with silence. Asterisk. Asterisk, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that presses against the walls of a home like a warning. The kind that unsettles neighbors, wakes dogs in the middle of the night, and makes even the wind feel like it's holding its breath. Asterisk. Asterisk on Crestwood Lane. The Alderman mansion had never been silent. It was a house of laughter, footsteps, music, and life. But on one quiet weekend, all of it stopped. And what the police found behind those doors would haunt an entire community forever. Asterisk. The Alderman residence stood proudly at the end of the cul-de-sac, a 3-story structure with wide windows, a polished garden, and an aura of comfort that made it feel almost invincible. For years, it had been one of the most admired homes on the street, a place where children played in the yard, where birthday balloons floated above the fence, where family barbecues filled the air with the smell of grilled meat and laughter. But on the second weekend of September, that familiar rhythm abruptly stopped. For 2 days, the house didn't move. Not a door opened. Not a curtain shifted. Not a single voice echoed across the lawn. At first, the neighbors didn't worry. Families get busy. People travel. Weekends can be quiet. But by Sunday morning, something about the silence felt wrong. Deeply wrong. The mail sat untouched in the box. The alderman's SUV hadn't left the driveway. The backyard lights had stayed on through 2 nights straight. And their dog, an old brown retriever named Milo, wandered the yard alone, whimpering and scratching at the back door as if begging anyone to let him in. It was the dog that finally prompted the call. Judith Cole, the next-door neighbor, had lived beside the alderman's for 11 years. She remembered birthdays, holidays, arguments, reconciliations, and everything in between. She knew the sound of each family member's footsteps, and she knew their routines. So, when she noticed their house frozen in stillness for 48 hours, a heaviness settled on her chest. Something wasn't adding up. At 9:13 a.m., Judith dialed 911. Hi, this isn't really an emergency, but maybe it is. I'm not sure. My neighbors, the aldermans, no one has seen them since Friday. Their dog is outside, and he looks hungry and confused. The lights are on inside, but no one answers the door. Can someone please check on them? Something doesn't feel right. The operator dispatched officers for a welfare check. Officer Raymond Hart and his partner, Officer Lena Brewer, were the first to arrive. They approached the mansion slowly, scanning the property. Milo barked weakly from the backyard, tail tucked between his legs. Hart immediately felt the tension. There was no movement behind the windows, no silhouettes passing through the curtains, no sounds of life. Brewer knocked on the front door. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. They circled around to the back. The dog grew frantic, pacing and pawing at the glass sliding door as if trying to guide them in. Something or someone was wrong inside that house. Using a flashlight, Hart tapped the glass and peered through the kitchen window. A chair was slightly pulled out from the dining table. A cup sat half full of tea on the counter. An oven mitt lay on the floor. Small things, ordinary things. But they felt eerie inside a house that had gone completely still. Officer Brewer called dispatch. Front and back doors are locked. No signs of forced entry. Request permission to enter. Minutes later, the order came. Asterisk, proceed. Asterisk. Hart broke the lock. The door swung open, and silence, thick, heavy, suffocating, poured out from inside. The officers stepped into the living room. Everything was pristine. Too pristine. The air felt cold, unusually cold for the season, as if the house had been abandoned overnight. The television remote sat neatly on the table. A blanket draped the sofa, smooth and unwrinkled. A family portrait hung above the fireplace, all 6 faces smiling. Officer Brewer called out, "Hello? This is the police. Anyone home?" Her voice echoed through the mansion, unanswered. They moved deeper inside. In the dining room, the table was set carefully, almost ceremoniously. 6 plates, 6 glasses, 6 folded napkins. Dinner had been prepared, but never eaten. A plate had fallen and shattered near the sink. the pieces lying untouched. The officers exchanged tense glances. Something had interrupted the aldermans in the middle of life and put them to sleep. What happened next would remain etched into the memory of both officers forever. Brewer took the stairs first, her hand on the rail, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The hallway was quiet, dim, unsettlingly orderly. She pushed open the first bedroom door and froze. Lying on the bed was 14-year-old Tyler Alderman, eyes closed, hands at his sides, the blanket pulled up neatly to his chest. He looked asleep, too asleep. Brewer whispered his name. No response. She touched his wrist. Cold. She stepped back, her breath hitching. One by one, they opened the remaining bedroom doors. The youngest child, 8-year-old Mia, lay curled under her Disney blanket. The grandmother, Eleanor, lay on her back, a rosary still in her hand. The mother, Elaine, rested peacefully, her hair spread over the pillow. The father, Jonathan, lay beside her, arms neatly folded. All six gone. All six without signs of struggle, pain, or fear. No blood, no bruises, no overturned furniture. A family of six, lying as though they had simply closed their eyes and never opened them again. Officer Hart's voice trembled as he radioed. We have multiple fatalities. Repeat, multiple fatalities. Scene is undisturbed. We need detectives and forensics immediately. What unsettled investigators the most wasn't just the deaths. It was the lack of chaos, the lack of any resistance. No smashed items, no forced entry, no drag marks, no defensive wounds, no blood spatter. It was as if the entire family had fallen asleep simultaneously and never woke up. The house wasn't a crime scene. It was a graveyard of silence. The community outside remained unaware of the horror unfolding inside the walls of the Alderman mansion. But for investigators, one thing was clear. This wasn't natural. This wasn't accidental. This was the beginning of one of the most chilling and unexplained crime mysteries ever recorded. And the answers were somewhere inside that silent house, waiting to be uncovered. Asterisk, every crime scene tells a story. Some whisper, some scream, but this one lied. Asterisk, asterisk, the Alderman mansion was too clean, too still, too perfect. As detectives stepped further inside, it was as if the house itself refused to reveal what happened. Every room looked lived in, yet untouched. Every object felt familiar, yet wrong. Asterisk, asterisk, it wasn't just a home frozen in time. It was a stage, and someone had arranged it with careful, deliberate silence. Asterisk, when the first team of detectives arrived at the Alderman residence, they expected chaos, a struggle, a break-in, something to indicate fear or resistance. But what they found instead was unsettling in a different way. The house didn't look like a crime scene. It looked paused. Every detail felt intentional. Detective Marissa Hale, a 20-year veteran who'd seen everything from domestic tragedies to calculated serial homicides, entered the mansion with a cautious step. But even she couldn't hide her confusion. It was like walking into a photograph, she later said. A still image. A moment frozen, but wrong. The investigation began room by room. The living room was spotless. Not a pillow out of place. Not a book left open. A faint smell of lavender hung in the air, the kind that families use to welcome guests. Except today, it left an eerie calm. A throw blanket lay across the couch, perfectly folded. The television remote sat parallel to the edge of the coffee table. A cup of tea, half full, rested in a porcelain saucer, still stained from where someone had last touched it. The tea was cold, very cold, meaning it had been there for hours, maybe even overnight. Detective Hale crouched beside it. No fingerprints on the cup, she murmured. The crime tech shook his head. Wiped clean. Why would someone wipe a cup in their own home? The next stop was the dining room. The moment detectives entered, the air shifted. On the long polished table, 6 plates were neatly arranged, one for each family member. Water glasses were filled halfway, napkins folded into tidy squares, forks and knives placed with precision. But one thing stood out immediately. There was a 7th plate, a seventh glass, a seventh napkin, a seventh seat. Detective Hale frowned. Were they expecting company? But according to neighbors, no one had visited the Aldermans that weekend. No cars arrived. No friends walked through the gate. So who was the seventh plate for? And why, if there was a guest, did no one see them leave? This discovery wasn't just strange, it was alarming. Someone else had been inside the house. Someone not accounted for. The kitchen brought even more confusion. On the floor, near the sink, lay the shards of a broken drinking glass. Large pieces, small splinters, clear and crystalline. It appeared to have fallen from a height. But strangely, the pieces were perfectly still. No scuff marks, no footprints around them. No sign that anyone had stepped near them after the break. Crime techs analyzed the fragments. No blood. No fingerprints. Nothing. Detective Hale made a note. Glass seems intentional. But why would someone shatter a glass and then leave it untouched? Was it a distraction? A mistake? Or the only moment in the house when something had gone wrong? Behind the counter, investigators found the family's dinner plates stacked neatly in the sink, as if someone had planned to wash them but never did. Food remnants suggested the family had eaten recently. A full meal, warm and hearty. The timeline was narrowing. On the wall near the hallway, the Alderman's home security panel blinked with a soft green light. The system was functional, active, and surprisingly tampered with. Detective Hale pressed the display. The log showed multiple entries and exits. Thursday, 8:09 p.m. entry. Friday, 6:31 a.m. exit. Friday, 6:33 a.m. entry. Friday, 11:48 p.m. exit unknown. Saturday, 1:15 a.m. entry unknown. Only one problem. The Aldermans were at home during those hours. No neighbor saw them leave. No car drove out. So who was entering and exiting the house? The log continued with small anomalies. Asterisk system override at 2:13 a.m. Asterisk motion sensors disabled at 3:02 a.m. Asterisk cameras rebooted at 3:03 a.m. Someone had knowledge of the system. Someone with technical skill. Someone who knew how to move in silence. And yet, there were no signs of a break-in, no damaged locks, no forced windows. Whoever entered the house had a code. Detectives retraced the steps officers Hart and Brewer had taken earlier. Upstairs, the hallway remained still. A framed collection of family photos lined the walls. Birthdays, vacations, graduations. Smiles frozen in time. But behind each bedroom door, a chilling reality waited. Beds fully made. Blankets tucked in tight. Pillows fluffed. It was as if someone carefully arranged each room after the family died. The children's rooms were the hardest to view. Little Mia's stuffed bear was propped against her pillow. Her coloring book remained open on the floor, crayons scattered beside it. But she was no longer there. Tyler's gaming console still hummed faintly, indicating it had been on less than 24 hours ago. His headphones lay around his neck, untouched, silent, waiting. These weren't signs of a family preparing for bed. These were signs of interruption. By mid-afternoon, a pattern emerged, but not one that made sense. 1. The family died without a struggle, asterisk, asterisk. 2. The house remained perfectly clean, asterisk, asterisk. 3. A seventh person had been expected or present, asterisk, asterisk. 4. Someone entered and exited the home secretly, asterisk, asterisk. 5. The kitchen glass was broken, but untouched, asterisk, asterisk. 6. The home security system was tampered with, asterisk, asterisk. Each clue hinted at something different. Asterisk, a visitor. Asterisk, a planned event. Asterisk, a calculated intrusion. Asterisk, a hidden presence. Asterisk, a stage scene. It was as if the house held two stories at once, one of normal family life and another of something dark lurking beneath. Detective Hale stood in the hallway, absorbing every detail. It felt like the house was lying to us, she said later. Something happened inside these walls, but everything was arranged to hide it. The Alderman mansion was no longer a home. It was a message, a silent one. And as detectives stepped back into the sunlight that afternoon, they knew one truth for certain. The clues inside the mansion weren't revealing the story. They were hiding it. Asterisk, every family has secrets. Some are harmless, some are painful, and some are dangerous enough to get someone killed. Asterisk. Asterisk, when investigators dug into the Aldermans' lives, they expected answers, something to justify the emptiness inside that silent mansion. But instead, what they uncovered were layers of secrets that the family had kept buried for years. Secrets about their marriage, their money, their children, and the strangers they let into their home. Asterisk. Asterisk, in the story of the Alderman family, death didn't begin the mystery. The truth did. Asterisk. When the bodies of the Alderman family were discovered, the immediate assumption was that something external, an intruder, a violent assault, a tragic accident, had struck them. But as detectives began to peel back the layers of their personal lives, they found a very different story. One filled with secrets, misunderstandings, unspoken pain, and quiet battles that no one outside the home ever saw. Jonathan Alderman, the head of the household, was known in the neighborhood as a kind man, calm, patient, always waving to neighbors as he left for work. But behind the closed doors of his study, his life was unraveling. Investigators discovered that Jonathan had accumulated over $180,000 in secret debt. Not family loans, not mortgages, not car payments. This was gambling debt, online betting, risky crypto schemes, untraceable investments with shadowy returns. His financial history revealed a man chasing a miracle. He had taken out personal loans from private brokers, people who didn't operate like banks, people who didn't send reminder letters, people who sent threats. Detective Hale's voice grew tight during her interview. It wasn't the debt that scared us. It was who he owed. Among Jonathan's correspondences was a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, your time is almost up. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Asterisk, was this a motive? Had someone come to collect a debt Jonathan could no longer pay? Or was he planning something desperate to escape the consequences? Elaine Alderman was described by those who knew her as attentive, warm, and intelligent. She worked at a local community center, volunteered in charity drives, and appeared to be the perfect mother. But detectives found something chilling inside her drawer. A confidential separation document, signed but not submitted. Elaine had been planning to leave Jonathan. Private notes inside her journal painted a life of emotional exhaustion. Asterisk, he's not the man I married anymore. Asterisk. Asterisk, we don't talk. We coexist. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm scared of what he's hiding. Asterisk. These weren't just the reflections of a struggling woman. They were the notes of someone preparing to walk away. Had she confronted him? Did someone discover her plans? And most importantly, did the tension inside the home have anything to do with the debts? Tyler, the 14-year-old son, had his own world, one that his parents barely understood. Detectives seized his laptop, and what they found added another sinister layer to the case. Tyler had been communicating with an online group known for pushing risky challenges, psychological manipulation, and dark role-play scenarios. These communities operated in anonymity, hidden servers, encrypted chats, time-locked messages. Investigators discovered messages dating back months. Asterisk, you said you were ready. Asterisk. Asterisk, the night is coming. Wait for the signal. Asterisk. Asterisk, don't tell them. Trust us. Asterisk. Tyler had also searched for terms like asterisk, how to disable home cameras. Asterisk, sign someone is in your house. Asterisk, sleeping gas symptoms. Were these coincidences? Were they teenage curiosity? Or was Tyler involved in something darker than anyone suspected? The truth was unclear, but the timing was disturbing. The grandmother, Eleanor, had moved in with the family only 6 months prior. She was quiet, gentle, and deeply observant. In her old age, she often stayed awake longer than everyone else. Her phone logs revealed late-night calls to her sister. The most unsettling message came 3 days before her death. Asterisk, there is someone in this house. At night. I hear them breathing. Asterisk. Her sister dismissed it as imagination, but Eleanor insisted it wasn't. She described footsteps in the hallway after midnight, cabinets closing, a whisper of movement in the attic, shadows that didn't belong to anyone in the home. Was Eleanor hearing things? Or was she the only one who sensed the truth, the presence living in the walls? The more detectives dug, the more they realized that the Aldermans weren't the perfect family they appeared to be. Jonathan was drowning in secret debt. Elaine was quietly planning to leave him. Tyler was slipping into a world of dark online influence. Eleanor felt watched and unheard. The younger children were caught between the tension of a home silently collapsing. Each family member carried a burden they never shared. But even in their secrets, nothing pointed directly to 6 simultaneous deaths. Unless someone used those vulnerabilities, 2 theories emerged, both terrifying. Number 1, someone exploited the cracks inside the family. A manipulator, a stalker, a person who studied their habits, their fears, their isolation. Or hashtag 2. The danger came from inside the home, asterisk. A family member cracking under pressure, a desperate act, a psychological break. But the forensic clues didn't support a family member doing it. There were no signs of violence, no signs of poisoning accessible to them, no forced medication, no suicide notes, no signs of internal collapse, which led detectives to one final question. If no one inside the house did this, then who did? The Aldermans were not targets of random violence. They were vulnerable. They were fractured. They were drowning in secrets that no one else knew. And they were being watched. Their weaknesses weren't just unfortunate parts of their lives. They were openings, windows, entry points for someone patient, calculating, and familiar with the shadows. Because in this story, the family wasn't just living with secrets. They were living with someone who knew those secrets and used them, asterisk. Asterisk. For 3 days, investigators walked through the Alderman mansion, searching for a killer. But the killer had already walked through it before them. Asterisk. Every murder leaves shadows, footprints, fingerprints, traces of presence. But this one left something chilling. The outline of someone who was there, yet invisible. Someone the family prepared a seat for, welcomed into their home, and never saw again. Asterisk. They called this person number 7. The missing guest. The ghost in the footage. The figure who entered the house and never came out. Asterisk. By the 3rd day of the investigation, detectives were drowning in contradictions. There were clues, but none pointed in the same direction. The Alderman family had secrets, yes. They had tensions, yes. But nothing tied those secrets to the cold, synchronized deaths inside the home. Everything changed when the forensics team began analyzing the house's security footage. The Aldermans had a reliable home security system, a modern setup with night vision, door sensors, and motion alerts. Detectives expected it to show the family's final hours. But instead, it showed something far more disturbing. On the night before the family was found dead, a figure entered the Alderman mansion at 11:48 p.m. The footage showed asterisk a tall silhouette, asterisk wearing dark clothing, asterisk walking confidently, asterisk using a home access code, asterisk entering through the front door without hesitation. The timestamp was clear. The lighting was clear. The posture was unmistakable, but the face was not. The figure kept their head low, obscured by a hood. This person wasn't breaking in. They were letting themselves in. Detective Hale and her partner revisited the dining room, standing in silence before the 7 plates. 6 family members, 7 settings. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't symbolic. Someone else had been expected or invited. Someone the Aldermans knew well enough to prepare a place for. But who? The neighbors never saw visitors that night. The cameras never showed a car pulling up. No taxi, no Uber, no headlights. Meaning person 7 either walked from the shadows or had been hiding close by. Next came the guest room. It wasn't ransacked or disturbed. It wasn't dusty or unused. It was lived in. Detectives found asterisk a bed recently slept in, asterisk pillows showing fresh indentations, asterisk a toothbrush still wet, asterisk a towel hanging over a chair, asterisk a phone charger plugged into the wall with no phone attached, asterisk a bottle of water half finished on the nightstand. These weren't remnants from months ago. This guest had stayed very recently, possibly the night before the family died, or even the same night. Detective Hale's voice trembled in her report. Someone slept under the same roof as the family hours before they were found dead. But there was no luggage, no wallet, no phone, no ID, no clothing. Everything portable was gone. But one thing remained: the fingerprints. Forensics dusted the guest room. The fingerprints on asterisk the doorknob, asterisk the bedside lamp, asterisk the dresser, asterisk the water bottle, asterisk the window latch, did not match any member of the Alderman family. They also didn't match neighbors, friends, or relatives who regularly visited. They belonged to an unknown adult male. This raised the real question. Did the Aldermans know the seventh person, or had he let himself in without their knowledge? More footage revealed another terrifying detail. At 1:15 a.m., the security cameras flickered. Then they shut off for exactly 5 minutes and 42 seconds. When they restored, the hallway camera caught a faint shadow, something passing by too quickly to identify. Detectives consulted the home security company. The system hadn't malfunctioned. It had been manually rebooted. Someone with expertise, someone who knew the system, had disabled the cameras deliberately. This proved that Person 7 was not just a visitor. He was skilled. He was prepared. He was familiar with the layout of the house. And he did not want to be seen. By now, detectives had more questions than answers. Asterisk, who was the seventh guest? Asterisk, why did none of the Aldermans call for help? Asterisk, why was there no sign of fear or forced entry? Asterisk, why did the guest room show no signs of panic? Asterisk, why did the cameras shut off? Asterisk, and most importantly, where was Person 7 now? The initial theory? A friend staying over, a relative, a coworker, a house sitter. But none of the people in the Alderman's circle matched the prints. None of them had been invited. None of them visited. None of them stayed the night. This wasn't a welcome guest. This was a shadow they didn't notice until it was too late. Remember the footage showing Person 7 entering at 11:48 p.m.? Detectives combed through the entire 48-hour recording after that moment. They expected to see the person leaving. They never did. The footage ended. The cameras were restored. The police arrived. But Person 7 never stepped back out the front door, never left through the back, never climbed out a window, never triggered the motion alarms. Detective Hale whispered the words no investigator ever wants to say. He didn't leave the house, which meant only two things. Either this person left invisibly, or this person was still inside when the police arrived. Detectives now had their first true lead, but it wasn't a comforting one. Someone walked into the Alderman house that night. Someone who had access. Someone who moved quietly. Someone who slept in the guest room. Someone who tampered with the cameras. Someone who ate with the family or watched them eat. And someone who disappeared into thin air without ever stepping back outside. But the truth was far worse than the investigators imagined, because soon forensics would uncover something that changed the entire investigation. Person 7 didn't leave the house because he never intended to. Asterisk, asterisk. He had been there long before the family died, and he was not a guest. He was a shadow living inside their home. Every mystery has a breaking point. Every lie eventually cracks. For days, the Alderman mansion whispered half-truths, but the forensics lab didn't whisper. It screamed. Asterisk. Asterisk, when the toxicology reports came back, they didn't just answer questions. They created new ones, darker ones, questions that twisted the case from a silent tragedy into a calculated orchestration. Asterisk. Asterisk. What the autopsies revealed forced investigators to abandon their theories, confront the impossible, and accept a truth more horrifying than anything they had expected. Asterisk. As the days passed, the Alderman mansion remained a puzzle with too many missing pieces. The scene was frozen untouched and eerily calm, yet saturated with unspoken fear. But investigators knew that houses could lie. Bodies could not. At the county morgue, the forensics team worked tirelessly to uncover the truth hidden beneath the silence. The first breakthrough came from toxicologist Dr. Avery Lynn. After running multiple tests on the alderman's blood, she found something that immediately sent chills through the investigative team. A rare, medically restricted sedative. Not common, not recreational, not easily purchased. It was a compound typically used in advanced medical procedures, potent enough to sedate an adult within minutes, and lethal in even moderately high doses. Dr. Lynn stated plainly, this wasn't an accident. This family was intentionally put to sleep. But what disturbed her even more was this. All 6 victims had exactly the same concentration of the drug in their systems. Not similar, not close, exact. This meant they ingested the sedative simultaneously, either in food, drink, or through inhalation. That immediately ruled out spontaneous poisoning, illness, or self-inflicted harm. Someone administered it. Someone precise. Someone calculated. Someone who understood dosage and timing. The crime had the signature of a professional or someone with medical access. The autopsies confirmed a chilling timeline. Each family member died within a 40-minute window. That level of synchronization was unheard of in accidental deaths. But in controlled sedation, it was textbook. Dr. Lynn presented her findings during a briefing. Asterisk, no signs of suffocation. Asterisk, no strangulation. Asterisk, no injections. Asterisk, no blunt force trauma. Asterisk, no defensive wounds. Asterisk, no struggle. The aldermans didn't fight because they never woke up. They slipped into unconsciousness and never returned. This revelation forced investigators to reshift their entire approach. The killer had not harmed the family physically. He had incapacitated them quietly, invisibly, methodically. The silence inside the house wasn't just eerie, it was engineered. The sedative had to be delivered somehow. Detectives returned to the home and analyzed every plate, cup, and utensil used during the final dinner. The dining table, still set for 7, became the focal point. Lab tests uncovered small, but undeniable traces of the sedative in. Asterisk the family's drinking water. Asterisk the broth used in the meal. Asterisk a serving spoon. Asterisk the rim of Jonathan Alderman's glass. This wasn't random contamination. The sedative was mixed deliberately into the family's dinner. The 7th plate, the one reserved for the unknown guest, was spotless, unused, untouched. Whoever sat at that seat never ate, never drank, never consumed the sedative, because they were the one who prepared it. As investigators dug further, they discovered that a vial of the rare sedative had gone missing from the local hospital supply. The sedative was logged under the access badge of a night shift nurse named Calvin Devereux. But Devereux had quit his job abruptly 2 weeks earlier. No notice, no forwarding contacts, no new address. He had vanished. And even more suspicious, Devereux had a history of mental instability, minor theft, and unreported disappearances from previous workplaces. Still, detectives couldn't conclude he was the killer. Not yet. But the puzzle pieces were aligning. Asterisk a rare sedative. Asterisk a missing vial. Asterisk a former nurse with access. Asterisk a family with vulnerabilities. Asterisk a home with cameras conveniently shut off. Asterisk a 7th plate at the dinner table. Someone orchestrated the scene. Someone who knew how to sedate an entire household without detection. Someone who had been in the house long before the poisoning. When the autopsy results came in, investigators returned to the Alderman mansion with scent detection dogs trained to track trace presence. The dogs moved through the house, sniffing. Asterisk bedrooms. Asterisk kitchen. Asterisk living room. Asterisk hallways. Nothing seemed abnormal. But then one dog, A Belgian Malinois named Hunter froze near the staircase. His handler noticed a change in behavior. Hunter lifted his nose and began climbing the stairs. At the top, he stopped at a small, barely noticeable door. The attic. He barked sharply, a sound that echoed like a revelation. Investigators opened the door. Inside the attic entrance was a narrow wooden ladder leading upward. Dust particles floated through the beam of the flashlight. The dog refused to move. He had found something, and what he found changed everything. The attic revealed a small, enclosed compartment, almost invisible unless someone knew where to look. Inside the space were disturbing items. Asterisk, a thin mattress made of old blankets. Asterisk, empty water bottles. Asterisk, food wrappers. Asterisk, a cigarette ash pile. Asterisk, a duffel bag. Asterisk, crumpled, torn pieces of paper. Asterisk, a flashlight with dried fingerprints. This wasn't a storage area. This was a living space. Someone had been living inside the Alderman mansion for days, maybe weeks, undetected. Dr. Lin reviewed the evidence carefully. The fingerprints on the flashlight and the duffel bag, they matched the same unidentified male prints found in the guest bedroom. Detective Hale whispered the truth the team dreaded admitting. Person 7 wasn't a visitor. He was living inside the house. And suddenly, asterisk, the weird footsteps Eleanor heard. Asterisk, the broken glass. Asterisk, the tampered security system. Asterisk, the missing sedative. Asterisk, the 7th dinner plate. Asterisk, the camera reboot. All made horrifying sense. This wasn't a random attack. This was a slow, deliberate infiltration. A predator had embedded himself into the family's life, watching them, studying them, waiting for the perfect moment. The Mansion of Silence was no longer a mystery. It was a crime scene designed by someone who, asterisk, knew the family's routines. Asterisk, controlled the environment. Asterisk, moved through the shadows. Asterisk, manipulated the home's security. Asterisk, prepared their final meal. Asterisk, sedated them with surgical precision. Asterisk, and lived among them undetected. But the most chilling revelation was still to come. Person 7 didn't break into the Alderman house. He made it his home, asterisk, asterisk. Now, the final piece was missing. Who was he? And what drove him to carry out one of the most terrifying silent killings ever recorded? There's a special kind of horror that comes from realizing the danger you feared outside was living above your head the entire time. Asterisk. Asterisk. When investigators opened the hidden attic compartment inside the Alderman mansion, they expected old boxes, maybe insulation, maybe nothing. But what they found instead was the truth. A truth so disturbing, so intimate, that it tore apart every remaining theory in the case. Asterisk. Asterisk. The Alderman family didn't die because someone broke into their home. They died because someone never left. Asterisk. The attic was small, far smaller than investigators expected. Not the wide, open space seen in suburban homes, but a narrow, confined enclosure built between beams and insulation. A place so tight that anyone living there had to crawl or crouch. A place of forgotten darkness. Yet someone had lived here, recently, intentionally, secretly. Detective Hale climbed the ladder slowly, her flashlight trembling ever so slightly as she lifted her foot onto the top rung. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of stale sweat and cigarette ash. Dust danced across the beam of her flashlight like floating ghosts. The hidden compartment was barely the size of a closet, but inside it was an entire life. The investigators found, asterisk, a pile of thin blankets forming a makeshift bed. Asterisk, empty water bottles stacked in a corner. Asterisk, candy wrappers, energy bar wrappers, and fast food bags. Asterisk, cigarette butts. Asterisk, a flashlight. Asterisk, a duffel bag stuffed with clothes. Asterisk, a set of small tools used for prying vents open. Asterisk, a notebook with torn, smudged pages. Everything inside the compartment pointed to long-term occupation. Someone had been here for weeks, maybe longer, coming down only at night, moving silently, watching, listening. Detective Hale whispered, "It's a den, a nest, He lived here comfortably, while the family slept below him. But it was the notebook that froze everyone in their tracks. The notebook contained sketches, not landscapes, not random doodles, not memories. It was filled with drawings of the Alderman family, sleeping, eating, walking, sitting at the dinner table. Each sketch was dated, timed, and disturbingly detailed. One chilling page had the words, asterisk, I watch them. I wait. They don't know I'm here. Asterisk. Another page. Asterisk, tonight will be quiet. Asterisk. And beneath that, a list of time increments, minute by minute, tracking the family's nightly habits. Asterisk 10:03, kitchen lights off. Asterisk 10:15, Mia asleep. Asterisk 10:33, Jonathan downstairs. Asterisk 11:01, hallway empty. Asterisk 11:48, door opens. That last line matched the exact time person 7 appeared on security footage. He had written, asterisk, I'm going in. Asterisk. The notebook wasn't just a diary. It was a blueprint. Fingerprints taken from the duffel bag, flashlight, and pages of the notebook were rushed back to the lab. By late evening, the call came through. The prints matched someone in the national database. A name, a face, a past. Calvin Devereux, 34 years old. The same nurse who stole the sedative. The same man who quit his job and disappeared. The same man with a reported history of mental instability and a sealed juvenile record. But the biggest shock came next. Devereux wasn't a stranger to the Aldermans. He was a distant relative of Jonathan Alderman, a cousin, estranged, unwanted, removed from family gatherings years ago due to unstable behavior. He had shown up once at their home months earlier, asking for money. Jonathan had refused. That encounter turned heated. The family asked him never to return, but he did. He returned quietly, through vents, through crawl spaces, through the attic. He didn't break into the home. He merged into it. Investigators pieced together the sequence of events. Hashtag step 1. Devereux slips into the home. He entered weeks earlier through an unsecured vent behind the garage, crawling into the attic unnoticed. Hashtag step 2. He studies them. He watched their movements, listened to their conversations, tracked their routines. Hashtag step 3. He steals the sedative. Using his medical access, he stole a restricted drug capable of putting a family to sleep silently. Hashtag step 4. He waits for the perfect night. The night the cameras flickered. The night the 7th plate was placed. The night the family sat together in peace. Hashtag step 5. He strikes. He laced the dinner food with precise doses of the sedative. Not enough to kill them quickly. Enough to render them unconscious. Enough to make them slip quietly into sleep. Hashtag step 6. He returns to the attic. As the family lay paralyzed and unaware, he crawled back into the darkness above them. He didn't kill them directly. The sedative overwhelmed their systems, especially the children, and in their weakened state, they never woke up. He waited in the attic for the house to go silent. Then he began packing his belongings. This was never supposed to be a long-term crime scene. He planned to leave before anyone noticed. But when the police arrived earlier than expected, he fled out a back vent into the woods, leaving behind the notebook that would reveal everything. 2 days later, a hiker spotted a disoriented man wandering near a creek, his clothes torn, speaking incoherently. The sheriff's department confirmed his identity, Calvin Devereux. He was detained without resistance. His first words were chilling. Asterisk, I almost finished. I almost made it out. Asterisk. The Alderman case wasn't a burglary. It wasn't a random break-in. It wasn't even a sudden violent act. It was a slow invasion, a silent occupation, a predator nesting above a family who never realized their home had been breached. The house didn't hide the truth. It contained it. Every floorboard, every vent, every hallway had held the quiet footsteps of a man slipping between worlds, visible and invisible, guest and intruder, family and threat. The mansion of silence had been under surveillance from within. Asterisk, the Aldermans never saw their killer because he didn't come from outside their home. He came from the shadows inside it. Asterisk, asterisk, in the end, the silence that filled the mansion wasn't peace. It was a warning, a reminder that sometimes the greatest danger we fear isn't at the door, but above us, waiting in the dark. Asterisk, asterisk, this is the story of the Alderman family. A story of trust violated, a home infiltrated, and a silence that cost 6 innocent lives. Asterisk.